Hey guys, thank you so much and welcome to Game Your Future podcast, where we help gamers realize their full potential. And today I am joined by Brandon Smith, who's a United States Air Force Staff Sergeant and is a base ambassador for a program called Air Force Gaming. So, Brandon, hello, and how are you?
Hello, my name is Brandon Smith. I'm Staff Sergeant in the United States Air Force. Yeah, and a current, I hold a current role in the base ambassador for my current base. And yeah, so just kind of how you guys doing?
Yeah, so I guess a lot of people interested as far as gaming and the military, right? I think
hmm
for ex I'll include myself as a civilian, just trying to understand like how much gaming goes on in the military because I know you got to have some time, some downtime, some time to have fun. So tell us a little bit about what Air Force gaming is and what your role as a base ambassador is or does.
So Air Force Gaming was a program created kind of during the 2019, 2020 COVID-19 pandemic as a result of all of those incidents. All of our members were isolating, obviously, to protect ourselves. And we saw that as an opportunity to help build that community and build a resiliency because as sad as it is, our members in our active duty space unfortunately have many issues that they are plagued with or dealing with at home or even here on our installations. And unfortunately, that sometimes might result in a negative impact towards maybe themselves or others. And then unfortunately, those things happen. So with that, we have built a program to help bolster our airmen, bolster their resiliency against it, and kind of build that community, that camaraderie, knowing that you are going home and maybe you play with a bunch of people from online, but then you build this community up, and maybe you're building, or maybe you're playing a game with another person who works directly with you, right? Or works in the same type of shop that you might work in. Um, all these career fields all together, and builds that cohesiveness with each other and that sense of, hey, I'm not the only one that's also here in this boat together, known as the Air Force or the military.
Right, and that's fantastic what you guys are doing there because it really sounds like you're kind of fighting the this kind of sense of depression that some of the airmen might be experiencing, right? And giving them that I like what you said that sense of community because I know
Mm,
as far as gaming, whether you're doing it online, whether you're doing it multiplayer, I say even single player games, build
mhm.
this sense of community, right?
Right.
And I believe that you mentioned to me separately that I guess one of your favorite games is the Final Fantasy series, like myself, right? Most of
Oh,
those I know are single player games, right? There are the few online
mhm.
ones, of course,
Of course.
uh, but it's amazing how much that we can connect with fellow gamers just having played a single player game to say like, how
Right.
did you handle this or what did you think of that, right? So
hmm
I love the sense of community around that. Uh, so as far as I guess how people are kind of using this right as this kind of sense of community. What
hmm
sort of benefit have you seen like as a result of that? Like is I guess the maybe the very simple question is it working and how have you seen it work?
So we see a dramatic kind of increase of community and camaraderie. So most of these airmen probably didn't know that like there was so many like them around them. So like going home and thinking, oh, hey, I'm the only like nerd in my shop or something like that to that effect. And you go home kind of with that mentality and that just kind of affects you. And so having that person, he comes home and now he knows that, oh, hey, there's other airmen in my same situation. And so with that, we have noticed like not a dramatic decrease, but it has definitely helped with like the kind of knowledges that like, hey, these are things that are helping, and we will never be able to have that like cure all to the situation. There will never be that like, hey, this is definitely working, but we have noticed dramatic leadership points have helped out. We've noticed airmen step up whenever an airman's maybe like feeling bad. They're like, hey, I need to step down from my role as an ambassador. And they're like, cool, take your time. Also, is there anything we can do to help? Right. So there's been a growing sense of community, camaraderie with all of that growing. And that's been just kind of we've just been going along. And we're now, I want to say, we're now at like 40K, about 40K members that
Wow,
are participating with the program. So
that's fantastic. And
it's
that's
been
across the
steadily
whole
growing.
Air Force.
Hmm.
That's
Mind you,
fantastic.
we're a small microcosm of the US,
Right.
obviously, but we're already the 1% of a 1%. And so that small, like 50,000 members is quite a lot.
Oh, for sure. And that's why, and so I understand it's not, like you said, it can't be like a cure-all, right? Because I know nothing
Right.
is, and not everybody's a gamer too. So it's kind of, how do
Yeah.
you, but the fact that it has helped, right? Like it's
Mhm.
significant enough. It has helped those, those that have joined is fantastic. And so kudos to you and the team that do that program just to really
Mhm.
help out. Because one of the other skills that I heard you mention that I wanted to kind of play into as well, the sense of resiliency, right? Building that sense
Mhm.
of resilience. Because I know as gamers, that is one of the big skills that and part of what I teach is for my clients and my coaching is that sense of resilience that you build playing games. So I wanted to get your thoughts on uh first like what sort of how that comes about and how you build resilience.
So we in the Air Force kind of have what like foundational pillars that we kind of work off of. When you go through basic, you learn about these pillars pretty quickly. You have your physical domain, your spiritual domain, your your mental domain, and there's about five or six pillars, and all those pillars basically help out with making sure that member understands you don't want those pillars to kind of be weaker than the others, or else you kind of start losing like a bit of the grasp on yourself, right? Um,
Gotcha.
these pillars are foundational to your own personal well-being. So you want to make sure like these are things that like just continually you work on. Maybe you don't work on one day, but can like work on it, right? Maybe you're not always studying your Bible, or maybe you're not always working out, or maybe you're not always training your brain and taking a pop quiz or something. But always be working at it because those are things that you do want to continuously work on, or else you kind of risk unfortunate circumstances in your
Right.
life.
And what you're saying too is that, and I do like that as far as you're not saying to multitask and do everything all the time at the same
Right.
time, right? It's you
Absolutely.
do have that sense of focus, that productivity when you can do one thing at a time, and then just knowing that there's other things that you're going to work on over time. So I do like that. That's fantastic. So as far as because what you kind of reminded me of too is I don't know if you've heard of like a what do they call it? The Tony Robbins Wheel of Life, I think he calls it. A very similar concept where it's different aspects of your life and you imagine it like a car tire, like a wheel, and you
Mhm.
fill outward from like 1 to 10, and it's about this kind of sense of balance, right? If one thing's
Right.
really high, but if one thing's really low, it's a very weird wheel that's not really going to work super well. So having that sense of balance, I think, is really fantastic.
We have what's known as an airman leadership school, and you go through to learn your leadership course, like how to become a good leader in the Air Force. And one of our exercises was to learn about those pillars, and one of them, in fact, was what they wound up doing was grabbing an airman, and we all hoisted him up. And every so often, the instructor would be like, all right, you're the social pillar. You come out. Okay, I'm out. And so now all the other pillars are starting to get a little bit weaker because
Mhm.
now they're having to support the weight of that person. And then the instructor's like, okay, mental pillar, you're out. And then again, that starts to become weaker. Physical pillar, you're out. And then you're almost at two pillars, you're about to drop that person. So
And
yeah,
that,
it's
yeah,
absolutely.
and that's great. Yeah, what a good practical example to really showcase that and make sure that that's clear in everyone's mind what can happen if you're not balanced or if you don't have all the pillars. So
Mm.
fantastic. Okay, so so as far as I guess the Air Force gaming and how well it's doing, so and I love how much it's doing. And before we go back to that, I do want to kind of discuss maybe your personal journey also through gaming. How has I guess, how long have you been a gamer and how has gaming really helped you, uh, kind of with your work in the Air Force?
So I'll say, I think as an Air Force, like as a gamer, I've been probably a gamer since I was the age of 5. I grew up playing Tekken at an early age and surrounded by military members. Although with the military members, I was playing with Navy in that case, but beating them in Tekken and then showing out later on to play more Tekken, and then suddenly I've been playing Final Fantasy.
Uh,
Um, So with that, pretty much I've just read a lot. Obviously with Final Fantasy, you're reading quite a lot, and I've kind of used that to kind of understand like the emotional depth of things that are happening, um, as I've gone on through life, and then you pick up on a lot of these different traits. You watch a lot of these different like single player games, their emotional moments, their impactful moments, and these things that slowly kind of uh impact a person's life that might change that individual or another. One of my most kind of heartfelt moments was, it was very silly, but seeing my father take that change was definitely great. But seeing in Metal Gear, right? You're playing Metal Gear, and there's a scene where you can have your character smoking, and then you get a codec call to be like, hey, the doctor of your team is saying, hey, that's bad for you. This is going to cause cancer and do a bunch of damage to you later on, and so forth. And so as somebody who shouldn't have been playing that game at such a young age, I had taken that and been like, I went over to my father, who was at the time kind of an avid smoker. Um, and I told him, I'm like, hey, you're gonna get cancer. Could you stop, please?
that's
Um,
wow.
and so as I told my father that, he actually quit that day. That was his last smoke, because his son
Really?
was his son at the time was telling him, hey, this bad thing could happen to you, and I want to be here for your life as you grow up and become who you are today, right? And so, I've taken those like kind of like moments of like even the small little things from gaming and turned it into not only just kind of like changing like people's perspective on things, but also like changing how people like look at things too. So, for instance, just even today, I was doing a marketing plan or planning out the projection for our intramurals and esports, and I had to explain to my director the differences in like what's known as skins, what's known as an actual character, and having to explain all of those pieces, just so that way he understood it, and I had to make it into a way that was digestible, right? Um,
Right.
the thing with gaming is a lot of times you're kind of stuck to that gamer lingo or gamer like talk. And so you need to be able to kind of bridge that gap of the individuals who are not like versed in that lingo, and you need to speak to them plain and let them know these are the things that like um you have to know why these things are the way that they are, right?
Exactly.
Sometimes that boils down into jokes about how we had a conversation about how maybe companies are kind of like penny pinching, but overall it just kind of was a productive conversation to explain to him how this functions and how it works. Because for a while he said my director was thinking that um, characters in a fighting game were the equivalent of a skin on Fortnite. which are two
Mhm.
separate things,
Yeah.
right? So you have to explain that to him to make it make sense, right? This character has set like a whole separate move set. The game is patched and balanced to run around that, right? These are things that you just kind of have to accept as like the culture of that specific style of game, right? So on and so forth. And these are things that it all becomes like conversation pieces, bridging gaps, understanding, and then being competency. Also, the way that the military has dubbed it is digital literacy, right?
So
It's
that's what we
not
call as
an
far as
obvious,
understanding the lingo, is digital
right?
literacy.
Yes.
That's
So
fantastic. Yeah.
making sure that every individual is kind of understanding the terms that are being used or
Yeah, because
the ideas
understanding,
of
right? Because I
concept.
think as gamers we take that for granted, right? Like everybody who's a gamer understands the lingo, right? When you say a
Right.
character skin, it's most
It's a
gamers just
skin. It
understand
doesn't
immediately
change
and move
nothing.
on, right?
Right.
But yeah, so trying to understand that, yeah, or trying to explain that, I guess, to non-gamers, very interesting to try to boil it down to those kind of basic concepts. And I do want to go back and talk just a little bit more about just the fascinating story with going to your dad and saying, "Hey, smoking's bad," which you learned from a game, and
Yeah.
then quitting that. That was amazing. I cannot even believe that happened. That is such a cool story, and
Right.
fantastic on your dad for following through and quitting that day.
Yeah. I was
That's
really proud of him.
that's fantastic, and and I think that helps goes to show like how much you can learn from gaming, right? Even just
Mhm.
kind of these world issues, right? Whether it is like hey, smoking causes cancer, and then because I guess I remember that there was a call like that, and like I think it was at that point maybe like when I played Metal Gear, I think I kind of already knew, so it didn't really affect me in that
Right.
way. But like that you had like a very clear someone in your life that you could go to and say, hey, I learned this. Can you please stop? Is just an amazing story. So I just can't state that enough. Uh, and I hope that those watching and listening can understand that like there's so much value in gaming that we can take into our lives. That's just fantastic. So again, just wanted to echo how amazing that story was.
Yeah.
So wanted to follow up also on the digital literacy and explaining to non-gamers, right? Because I think that's a challenge with gaming with gamers as far as and what I try to help with too. And I wanted to get your perspective as far as taking the gaming out of the game, right? And saying like, how do we
Right.
apply what we learned to our lives? And so besides the digital literacy, I guess what other aspects of gaming have you or have you thought of as far as transferring that into your life?
So, obviously there are a couple of different items that you could probably take away from. You have team cohesiveness in different games. We'll say Final Fantasy 14, as we both have dabbled in.
Yep.
There's a lot of team cohesiveness that goes into it, and so when you become a leader of a team, you have to build that cohesiveness with everybody and get everybody on board. There are certain aspects to that where you have to maybe make concessions in certain areas and make it make sense is kind of like the term that I would use. But overall, it's something that's like you don't want to you don't want to go hardball all the time on these airmen. There are things that sometimes you might need to do. You might need to explain to them, hey, this is probably the better way of doing this. This is something to work on. Overall, like I get that a lot of the memes out there probably would say that we're just a bunch of people who just yell at our coworkers or so on and so forth. But the reality of things is military is a profession. The military is a professional work environment. So there are times where we will come up to our members and talk to them as if they are actually adults and tell them, hey, here are some things that could probably be worked on. Here are some things that you might need some adjustment and whatnot. Hey, how, and give them that feedback and whatnot. Um, and to use like the different like ways of like that cohesiveness from gaming kind of goes into our enriching your ability to be productive on a team, right? Another quality that I kind of took out from gaming is competitiveness as well.
Mm.
So I am also I dabble in quite a lot of different fighters, not good at a single one of them, mind you.
Except for
But
Tekken,
I
right?
well Tekken, but then I play Tekken 8 and
Gotcha.
learned. I was in fact not that great.
Oh well.
I think I'm like right now red rank with my Tekken, and those Tekken veterans will definitely say, "Oh, that's nothing" or anything like that. So I'm not a Tekken god. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's hard to
But
be that high, but yes, it. But no,
yeah,
but
it
being
is a lot of
being
work.
being skilled enough, right, to really the average
Yeah,
person, right? So I'm sure you can
having that
absolutely whoop me
competitive
in Tekken. So
mindset. Yeah, but having that competitive mindset to be like, hey, this is you gotta be you do have to, set yourself apart whenever you're in the military, whenever you're trying to make rank. And because ranking structure doesn't exactly work the way that some people might have it in their heads. They think they spend enough time and spend enough service that they just automatically put on. Unfortunately, that's not how the military functions. There are several different like layers, like you have to take a test and then you have to get what's known as a um, evaluations, right? Those evaluations are going to be known then as what we dub rack and stack, right? We rack and stack all of the members of that particular rank. So, for instance, right now, we're about to start testing our E4s, and they're going to go up for E5s. So they're going to take their test, and then they'll go in and get racked and stacked from their test and their evaluation, and then they'll go and be competitive against all the rest of their E4 counterparts. Are they set apart from those airmen? And you have to have that competitive mindset to say, hey, I want to make sure my sergeant never has to worry about a dang thing. I want to make sure that I am on top of my ball, like making sure that I am doing everything and following everything by the books, scoring aces on everything. Making myself, setting myself apart, putting on, doing college trainings and doing all sorts of different professional developments. Those things set our airmen apart. And so then we have to rack and stack that to say, hey, this person is competitive. This person wants to be the next rank. This person wants to go out there, right? So fighting games kind of translates a lot of that like competitive mindset that they want to be probably better, they want to get there, right? And so that helps to kind of mold our airmen into being kind of better without sacrificing that teamwork or camaraderie.
that's fantastic, and that's one thing I think that is overlooked, at least in my opinion, as part of competition, is that desire for self-improvement. Right. It's
Mhm.
something that just simply being competitive, right? I think sometimes does get kind of a bad reputation, like we're to the point of like, oh, you're just so aggressive, you're just way too competitive kind of thing. But
Right.
I think one of the key points that you kind of mentioned is that, that self-improvement, that personal development. You want to get better so that you can compete at that higher level, right? And that's something that we
Absolutely.
do inherently in gaming a lot too, that we don't
Mhm.
maybe necessarily realize we do because
Yeah.
you want to get better at the game to be able to progress, to beat it, to get to a higher rank, depending on the game. And then again, for those listening, I think that's one of the key things you can also take out to say just simply wanting to be better is not a bad thing. It's called self-improvement and personal
Yep.
development.
Exactly.
Fantastic. And I think that goes a lot with the what you kind of mentioned before as far as the leadership aspect of it as well.
Hmm.
And so wanting to be a better leader for those around you, as well as, and you mentioned kind of leadership academy, right? As
Hmm.
part of the Air Force. Can you speak to a little bit about that as far as what you've noticed? Yeah, did you say you went through like the leadership academy piece of it
So
yourself?
yeah, so all of our airmen eventually go through ALS at some point in their career. This is what is required when you put on a specific rank, and then there's a follow-up school quite similar to that school, which mimics a lot of the same qualities, but then they are expected to know at a deeper fundamental level of their leadership uh, competency. Um, so Airman Leadership School exists for our airmen to, in essence, just kind of teach and inspire our future leaders. So when they go back to their sections, they're more adept and able to handle complex situations that they might not be equipped to handle, right, at first. For instance, right, you have just we'll even set this down to the lowest bar and even say like socially. It was my first troop, my first airman, came into me and when I finally had like a sit down and explained to him, hey, here's our kind of feedback. You can kind of be casual with me. It's okay. This isn't a hardcore environment right now. This isn't the professional environment. I want to know more about you. And he goes on to say, uh, oh, well, let me start yapping, right? He starts hitting me with the Zoomer lingo talk. And at that point, I was like, oh, I have to learn about this now. I have to absorb this knowledge now and be ready to like understand pretty much what is being told to me, right? Like a new language, learning a new language, right? It's going to be very scary. It's a whole process. Um, and nowadays I'm called Unk, right?
There you go.
And it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, all right, cool. Having to learn new things like this. And then you learn something as silly as that to then learning, personally, like you have airmen who are struggling maybe and they need that extra assistance. Where they need that extra assistance because unfortunately maybe they weren't well equipped at home or they were not able to properly give that enough of that like life learned experience to that person before sending them to us, right? So as leaders, we have to make sure we're uh emotionally emotionally strong to work out all of these different struggles that our airmen go through each and every single day.
Gotcha. Yeah, and having that level of, I guess, yeah, empathy too and understanding to
Mm.
really try to connect with them is fantastic. So, have you noticed, being a gamer, has that helped or hurt in any way as far as, what compared to maybe some of your peers going through the program, the leadership program? Does being a gamer make you think a better leader, or has it been harder compared to some of your peers?
So I kind of don't kind of see that so much. We have a lot of different types of leadership styles that kind of exist. And I learned about these different leadership styles, in fact, at ALS, or Airman Leadership School. And these were like, whether that person, it's more of a personality of that leader. How do they perceive or want to um do their leadership style, right? They have what's known as laissez-faire, where they kind of just hands off and let the airmen kind of figure it out. Something I kind of try to take part of, where it's like I believe that my airmen are full-grown adults and they need to uh be able to learn on themselves by themselves, right? Or a more like hard, tactful approach where it's like they're constantly yelling at them, constantly on them. Hey, 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 we need you to do this. this tasker was due X amount of time ago, so on and so forth, right? Um, those things kind of like exist in tandem with each other. And so being a gamer, you're able to mostly understand a lot of these complexities. I wouldn't say it might bolster your like it will say it say for instance it will increase your ability to be better, but I don't say it would be any worse or make you worse. In fact, sometimes I will say that these make it better for you to understand.
Mm, I like that take on
You
it because what you're talking about too is understanding, I guess, the game vernacular of it is that you're very
mhm,
good as a gamer for understanding game mechanics, right?
right,
To going through and picking apart, like you pick up a new game, typically as a gamer, you kind of very quickly understand what the controls are and what kind of the limitations are, and having that adaptability quickly to say like, oh, this is how this game works now.
right,
And so being able to, you're saying kind of, and I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're saying in your words, you're saying, using these different leadership styles, you can kind of more quickly figure out which ones work, which ones don't for you and the
right,
airmen under you.
right, exactly. These are things where maybe our games help bolster our ability. So maybe say yes, it does help, but I wouldn't say it's the only thing that will help you get through, right? These are
Right. Yeah.
assistances.
Yeah, so it's just
You
a piece of helping with the, I guess, the learning aspect or the application of it, but you
mhm,
still have to learn the leadership aspects of it to be able to
right.
to
Yeah.
utilize. Yeah. Okay,
We've
fantastic.
we've all heard about that, how bad leaders can definitely impact kind of our kind of general output in like our products.
Absolutely. Yeah, bad bad leaders, you'll get bad output, low morale, you'll
Yeah.
get all of it. So wanted to come back a little bit to the Air Force gaming, right, as well. So
Mhm.
is there eh, eh, just to kind of ask this question, so I guess the big part of it, what you said as far as the Air Force gaming, is really that kind of
Mhm.
community and kind of helping. As far as is there an official? I guess what would I call it? From the brass when they said this is what Air Force gaming is about, the whole program. Do they
Mhm.
specifically say what pillars it supports? Does it say like, hey, this is really supporting our mental pillar or our community
Yes.
pillar?
So it actually it supports multiple of our total force pillars, right? We look at our emotion, our kind of our social. It works on our social. It works on our mental, and it works on our maybe it might work for some. It might work on their spiritual, right? I can't speak for everybody about that, but sorry, there are interesting individuals that might have that kind of faith towards gaming, right? That is something that might exist. Um, and so these are kind of just foundational pillars that help kind of work. The vision of the Air Force gaming is to have that community of gamers for gamers, um, with the mind of having this like space for them to thrive in. We're always sharing our leadership tidbits there, saying, "Hey, these are things that like us as leaders kind of think about or look at or understand, right?" And it helps develop us as future leaders ourselves. So we're helping basically share the wealth, right? As I would say.
Gotcha. And so as we wind down this particular episode, I wanted to make
Yeah.
sure that we covered as much as we can on the Air Force gaming because that I know is so powerful, for those in the military in the Air Force that just to have that sense of community and those multiple pillars like you said supporting them. So
Right.
one question I have is where can people learn more about the Air Force gaming the program?
So Air Force Gaming as a program is for mainly our military members and what is known as our total force. Every member that is affiliated with the military in some way, shape, or form or capacity. whether that be they're contracted to the military or they are a dependent, like a son or daughter of a military member. These members essentially are allowed to become part of the Air Force gaming community. So they exist as kind of that the people allowed to join with us. Unfortunately, we do not currently have availability to put in our civilian counterparts, our more civilians to come join us, but we do sometimes open community events at local bases that sometimes might have your Smash night or your Tekken night, whatever have you. And so local base procedures and policies might have something in place for that.
Gotcha. So if they are yeah, affiliated, it sounds like so with the military, whether it's dependent, whether it's actually active service or just total, you said total force. Uh,
Total
so
force.
where can those people, so assuming they are part of that, where can they go to learn more?
And they could go to learn more at airforcegaming.com.
There it is, airforcegaming.com. Fantastic. So
Mhm.
gosh, Brandon, thank you so much for being on this and telling us about Air Force gaming and all the great things that the Air Force is also doing just to kind of support gaming and gamers and just the welfare and the well-being of their airmen. Yeah, using gaming. That's fantastic. And I do have one more question for you before you go, and that
Mhm.
is, and I ask everyone, what is your favorite video game?
I have to say the Final Fantasy series, specifically Final Fantasy 9, my favorite
Nine
personally.
is your favorite. Awesome. So I am very much a Final Fantasy fan myself, so love to hear it. So Final Fantasy 9, thank you so much, Brandon. And if you guys
Yeah.
want to learn more, airforcegaming.com. And if you want to learn more about how you can take your gaming skills and realize your potential, transferring gaming into leadership, definitely you can check out my site, dragonmorexp.com. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.